Welcome everyone for joining. Very happy to have you all with us today. My name is Tobias Wellner. Feel free to call me Toby if you like. I know a lot of you. Those who don't, I am working for Quaker Peace and Social Witness, QPSW, as the East African Peace Building Program Manager. And I want to welcome you very much, all of you, joining us today for this webinar, which, as all of you know, is part of QPSW Spring Session series. Before we make a start, I would just like to remind everyone on some housekeeping rules. And the most important one is that this entire webinar will be recorded. The main session, not the breakout rooms. The recording will be made available on our website in due course. If you don't want to be part of that recording, I suggest that you turn off your camera. Yeah, throughout the entire webinar, kindly stay muted until the very end when we come to the question and answer section. Another important point before we start, there will be a break halfway through. However, if you feel like you need a break, please, feel free to do that whenever. You can just turn off your camera. Also, don't worry about, pets and children, partners and housemates to walk into your camera. They're all very much welcome. In general, everyone is very much welcome in these sessions. It's really important for us that everyone feels welcome, respected, and cared for. You should have received some joining instructions that included some information. Don't worry, if you haven't read them already, we'll welcome you to do that now. If you have any questions, feel uncomfortable, kindly message me privately using the chat function, or Phil, as I mentioned earlier. Now, what will happen today? I will start briefly talking you through some very general points about QPSW. I will then hand over to my amazing Kenyan colleagues who will talk about their work. We will have a 5-minute break in the meantime. Sorry, not in the meantime, in the halfway point. There will be a breakout room session after our break. And then in the very end, we'll have our question and answer session. So if you have any questions, then please hold them. We'll definitely have time in the end to talk about them. Let me make a start. And again, welcome you all so much for this 5th part of our Spring Session. Most of you will know that this is part of QPSW's work, Quaker Peace and Social Witness, which, as most of you will know, is part of British Quakers, and it's part of the church of the yearly meeting. QPSW is one department, and there is about 21 of us, if I remember correctly. And our aim as a department is to work towards a more peaceful and more sustainable work. And we try to do that in a way that is underpinned by need for justice, that is recognized, and we're living in a complex world where problems such as violent conflict, inequality, environmental destructions, racism, and anti-migrant sentiments are all very much interconnected. While I struggle to say all of this, you probably saw the vision and the objectives of our new strategy here on the screen. Right, now this diagram shows the problems and concerns that we at QPSW see. And we understand sort of Quaker discernment as a filter that responds to problems in the world that tries to find ways to transform them. It's important to recognize that these problems are all often interconnected and have very similar roots, including massive inequalities of power and wealth, unjust and unequal economic structures, social systems, militarism, and colonial legacies. As you can see at the very bottom, QPSW works on a very wide range of issues, including disarmament, climate justice, community-led peace building, and so on and so forth. And you might have actually joined other parts of this series. Now, one of QPSW's international project is called Turning the Tide East Africa, which is the topic of today's session. And before I hand over, I just want to say that QPSW supports 3 local East African peace organizations, and we do that in order to implement the nonviolent training and accompaniment program, Turning the Tide East Africa, TTT in short. Some of you might know this already. Before I now come to introduce the speaker, a quick word on gender balance. So we are very much aware that all the speakers are men today, and we're sorry for that. But at the same time, please note that women are an absolute key part and pillar of this work. There's many women involved in our work on Turning the Tide East Africa, but also on a grassroots level. Some of you might remember that last time when we had this webinar series, we actually had Betty and Monica leading the session. Another quick reminder is internet connection issues. I really hope that internet will stay with us, and especially with my colleagues in Kenya. So please, if you see any issues with the internet connections, just bear with us. Now, for the most important part, I feel very honored and happy to introduce to you all my Kenyan colleagues, Benson Hamasi and Wilson Ayer. Both Benson and Wilson work for Turning the Tide in Kenya. Both are Quakers and have been working with TTT Kenya for years. At this point, an important reminder, some of our East African colleagues are Quakers, not all of them are. Both Benson and Wilson have supported many grassroots campaigns in Kenya for many years, and have also been involved in bringing this work to Rwanda and Burundi. And with that, Benson, I would like to hand over to you. So when you're ready, please unmute your microphone and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my colleague in London. Karibu to this webinar here in Kenya and Western region. As you've been told, my names are Benson Hamasi from Western Kenya. That is a region of largely Quakers. We majority of us in this side of the country. I am a Quaker and I've been involved in this work for close to 10 years now. I have no privilege of knowing who's in the room. Sorry for that. But for some of my friends we've met before and they're here, receive my greetings. I've heard Marigold and others mentioned. Please bear with me, I might not recognize all of you. Turning the Tide East Africa is a program supported by the QPSW of Britain Yale meeting. And we are in 3 countries in East Africa. That is Kenya, Rwanda, and Burundi. And the 3 of the countries implement the Turning the Tide program independently with a local organization in each of the 3 countries. So in Kenya, we implement through AfriNov, which is a local-based organization built by the local team. In Rwanda, there is implemented by Rwanda Yearly Meeting, and in Burundi with MIPAREC. That forms the TTT East Africa network. All the 3 East Africa countries, we have a model that we implement the program, which is more or less similar. although implemented independently with the respective organizations I have mentioned. For Kenya through Afrinov, and of course with the other colleagues of ours in Rwanda and Burundi, we have 4 to be able to deliver this great work. I'll run through very quickly so that you get to know the 4 pillars. Pillar number 1 is non-violence training and capacity building for small and existing community groups, so that where you'll find that we have small interested groups that need and deserve a training in non-violence, then Afrinov is violence is a new concept in Kenya.
Sorry, everyone. I don't think it's just me, but we have lost Benson. Bear with us just a moment. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I am. Sorry, guys. My internet is a bit weak, so I drop off a bit. Yeah. The second pillar I was explaining that we use in the program is the helping of the communities and groups, identified groups after the training, to carry out issue analysis, the root causes of violence around them, the injustices, being able to identify them and analyze what is behind, what is supporting, and what is sustaining them. So all this process is about engaging the communities with the tools, and we call them TTT tools and other ways to be able to help these communities know why is this problem prevailing, why is it not going away, and the amazing tools that the communities engage in. It is key because it is participatory and community owned. They come up with solutions, suggestions, and so on. The third pillar, on the third slide, please. Carry along with the communities campaigning and initiating small initiatives to correct the injustices and some of the wrongs that they have identified and discussed that they want to see a change to. And in this accompaniment is usually walking along the group, the communities, guiding them on non-violence principles and non-violence behaviors and all that, so that all through we maintain a campaign that is able to bear fruits and indeed give change. Maybe from the pictures you are viewing from your screen, one is a campaign of teenage girls in Mount Elgon. Is a big problem where our young girls are very vulnerable. They hardly complete school. They hardly join colleges and university. So the campaign is to mentor, to keep and to protect the rights of these children so that they can enjoy life, health, and all other rights that they are embodied to. And then the symbol you see in the screen, which is a two-finger symbol, is to say we are committed to good behavior, good morals, and not engaging in sexual behaviors. They say to mature. So that is to commit that these children are following these principles and they are able to carry them along as role models to others. And many other campaigns that, as you can see from your screen, another one from Nairobi. The last pillar is very key to us because we believe we can only achieve all this through networking, building of masses, and building of movements, and knitting together these small groups. Because some of these small groups are amorphous, they hardly know each other from different communities. So this process is linking them. What are the common problems they face, common injustices, common ideas, strategies they use, how can they learn from each other, and maybe use best practices from elsewhere. And in turn, we have a bigger pool of campaigners joined from our regions, from our national platform, and even to our East Africa network. The picture in the middle is our East Africa network gathering, sometimes in Rwanda, where we had Kenya, Rwanda, and Burundi coming to share, to learn from each other, to build each other, and to start forming an East African mass of nonviolent actors that are able to influence change within the regions and the communities. With the 4 pillars, we marry them with the 7 principles of nonviolence, which are also very key. And I would wish to introduce my colleague, Wilson, who can briefly take us through the 7 principles and see how do we use them to link on today's topic of working with our opponents and how do we respect and care for them. Karibu Wilson, if you are hearing me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ben, and all the audience. What Ben has said, that violence is, non-violence is a new concept to us, especially in East Africa. And we are trying to embrace it, and especially while in the field, we uses 7 principles to guide us, to lead us, and also to discipline us, to us with the fellow participants that we teach, in that they help them at least to be disciplined, carry their activities well, maintaining the non-violence concept. So principle number 1 is about being willing to take action for justice without giving into or mimicking violence. And in that is about not causing violence or not giving into violence. These are taking actions in a non-violent way, but without causing violence. Prince for everyone involved in a conflict, including our opponent. And by this is just about caring. While doing the campaign, it's obvious there is the opponent, there is someone you are challenging, maybe who is benefiting in one way or the other because of an injustice. And this one is just telling us about to respect and care. This is about rights, considering rights that's a human being who need love and who also need care. We will be revisiting that because it is our main discussion about it. I'll be coming back to that. Can we go to number 3? This is about refuse to harm, damage, degrade people, living things, the others, a means of achieving goals. From what we used to do is that we cause violence so that we achieve our goals. But this principle is denying us. It's telling us that no, we should not cause harm, degrade people, or living things so that we achieve our goals. So it disciplines us that we must do it in a peaceful way so that we achieve our goals. Principle number 4 is about acting in ways consistent with the ends we seek. This is doing it in a peaceful way. That means we do it, we start with the peace, then it will give us a good end. It will give us what we need, the ends we need. But we do it in a violent way, definitely it will be violent. When we go to principle number 5 is about be prepared to take suffering on ourselves without inflicting it on others. This is taking the suffering, taking the lead, not telling others to do it. No, you take the lead, be the role model, take the direction, so that at least without telling others to do it, take the suffering. Number 6 is about belief that everyone is capable of change and no one has a monopoly of the truth. This is everyone can change. We believe that in this non-violent world, everyone can change than what we used to know in a violent world, that people cannot change, or this one cannot change. But this one is disciplining us that we believe that everyone is capable of change and no one has a monopoly of the truth. Number 7 is to thinking and behavior become part of our everyday lives. This is about the value of the training. Like when we want to do any campaign, we value training so that we get the common understanding. Are we together? Are we all on the same page? Is non-violent thinking and behavior part of us? Yes, then we are ready to go for the campaign. And we are like advocating so that it is our daily, everyday activities in life, so that when we do anything, we think of the non-violent discipline. I would wish we go back to principle number 2. Principle number 2 is about considering the rights of your challenger, because he has a different minds with you, but we have to consider and listen to him. And remember that the opponent is also a human being that needs respect and care the way you also need respect and care. He or she has a key role to play in your campaign, in that despite the difference, reasoning or thinking about it, but he or she has a role to play. We shall be talking about more, but allow me to welcome Ben.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Wilson.
Yes.
I hope I'm audible. With the topic of the day, which is working with our opponents and caring and respecting them, is not an easy one in the Kenyan or in the East African context. Maybe if I start from our thinking, our upbringing, and what is expected to us, given the history we have, is anyone in the context of an opponent is close to equivalent of an enemy. So if you take an enemy and, so to speak, an opponent who's not with the same thinking as you, it becomes very difficult naturally to engage with them, to consult, to speak to them, to have respect even in approaching them, and even the language used to somebody who's not agreeing with you. That's what we know and what we have been used to. But with the TTT coming and nonviolence becoming a new concept, we started trying and testing. Is it true you can have care for the opponent? Which I would replace with the word opponent in a Kenyan context with an enemy. And it's been not easy and not applicable to many people. But through TTT, as we said, we go through the training, the mentoring, the accompaniment, the trial becomes easy. So in the Chinese quarry case study, or an example, is a Chinese-owned company that is doing construction work, which construction is going on in most parts of the country. There are major construction projects going on. And the majority of the people behind are Chinese companies. And many a times they set up camps and sites in rural communities where they're doing the projects, disregarding the community rights, community health, community, other issues. And we see many problems starting to face the community. Some of them is loss of the environment to this pollution by machines. In this particular case, we have a heavy explosion from the explosive use. You can see the picture there of the quarrying machines, a very high explosive use to blast those stones and so on. So you find these communities going through a lot of pain and suffering in silence without anyone to speak to. But with the TTT coming on board and people hearing what TTT is about nonviolence, engaging and solving these problems. We came across area near Malava, Malava is in Western Kenya, that was going through this. And from listening, from mobilization and fact finding, we were able to indeed find a lot of injustices going on in this area, including government regulation violations by the company just for blatant immunity or impunity that nobody is able to take any action. So for TTT, we engage the communities through the training by getting allies and all that. And of course, what turns out to be in this particular campaign is that people in leadership and in government, particularly the local government, they are the most on the opposing side of this campaign, because in one way or another, they are defending a government they are serving, that they need to deliver these projects. They are beneficiaries of these projects in several ways as company officials keep these local government officials in their whims to have their favors granted, and they become now the opposers. And with the campaign pressing on, maybe in the next slide, please, is campaigners strategizing, meeting to discuss. And the first picture on the left is even visiting the camp office to seek audience with the management and give plea to what they're suffering and so on. There are our local campaigners, CRP, with the locals representatives. And they meet to discuss and deliberate on the best way forward. And for this campaign, we managed to see some results, outcomes non-violently, where we had the company closing temporarily and some community members getting compensation for what the damages they had caused health-wise and environmentally and others. And the biggest of all is the company to follow the all due law processes and laws of the land, that these projects do not harm the community. They put adequate measures to correct them. As I said, you find it is not easy to get to discuss these things with your opposing side, the opponent, and all that. But through the respect and caring, you find they are able to listen to you. And sometimes we have had some who become allies and join our campaign. Maybe I give room to my colleague for another sharing, Wilson.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ben. I also want to bring another sharing. This is about anti-land grabbing campaign that took place in Kenya, that is in Western region. And this is land, 5-acre land that was set aside particularly for dispensary, and the land was grabbed by someone, a prominent person, a person who's well off. And what happened was that this land was there since 1989, well set aside for dispensary. This is a pharmacist for your case, where the community go for treatment for having drugs. Pregnant women go for checkup and delivery and all that. But the land, as the community was still waiting for the hospital to be built, they realized that a prominent person grabbed the land. And the community started getting worried. And after getting worried, they started now discussing on one-on-one what's taking place. I thought this one was set aside for dispensary, and if this land go, what are we going to do, and all that. But there is a local community, women-focused group that they got those informations, and they started working out to see what is this, that the land we were given or set aside for dispensary is now being demarcated for in small pieces for sale. So having the skills they trained by us, our organization, this is AfriNov, they used the skills, one, to do research, get the facts, what is happening, who is this, and do we have the documents clearly stating that this is a community land set aside for this purpose, the dispensary, and then they got the information clearly from the local leaders, from the old people around, and after that, they took a step with the help of our office, this is AfriNov. They took a step and went to the above office. And when they went to the above office, with the help of the office, the first picture you see there, they visited the Minister for Lands, and the minister, you can see, checking the documents they have to see if it is true that this land belongs to the community. So the minister requested for some few minutes, for some few weeks, to check the documents with his Department of Lands, so that they can see the next step. And after that 1 week, it was realized that yes, this land, since 1989, it was meant for community dispensary or a pharmacist, where the community will go for treatment. And from that, he called our office, this is AfriNov, and the women. They said that yes, we have realized that we have a problem, and this man has also processed a fake title deed, but we need to listen. What can we do? Then the women advised the minister that can we go on the ground, talk to the community, get their views, and then from there we will see way forward. So the minister did exactly that way. As well, the minister also wanted to know if it is true that the community know that this is their land. So after that, they managed, we had a big gathering, and using the social speedo about mobilization, who is on our side, who is not on our side, who is supporting us, who is not supporting us, how can we make those who are not supporting us come to our side, and all that. The women did that. This is a women-focused group. So, and doing that, they had especially particular people who have the history and the facts about that land and when it was given. And even some of them have documents in relation to that land that clearly specifies that this is the land that belongs to the community. So that is why you see the third picture there on your left. Yeah, the public is there, and the local government is talking to the public, getting their views about it and all that. And through the mobilization skills that turning the tide has empowered these women, it came out clearly that that land belongs to the community, because those old men who have the history stood firm and clearly gave even more documents about that land. You can see the third photo is that they mobilized the local leaders and even the national leaders to come on the ground. Those are the Ministry of Lands, the Ministry of Interior Security, and all that. Next slide. Yeah, you can see they have documents. The community came up with documents, well researched, having even the signings by the then ministers concerned for lands. And then one before that slide, yeah. And then on that day of public participation, getting views from the community, the opponent was invited by the government, and he came and he gave his views, he gave his verdict. And we also learned a lot from him, that he have some few things or documents that may be on one way or the other we did have. And those were fake documents that he had worked out by himself. And then you can, the third photo, you can see the elder people giving exactly the detail of that land and exactly what the land was purposed for. And these people helped us, and the land was brought to restriction. The next slide. You can see these women came up with the document even from the Ministry of Land, very private and confidential document, stating that in 1989, this land was allocated to the community purposely for pharmacists, for the community to get services. So this land at the moment, it's very important, because people are traveling very far to get services. But with the campaign, at least everything has come to a standstill. And at the moment, nothing is going on. The government is looking at the legal details on how they can bring the land back. Allow me to welcome the next speaker, Ben.
Now is a little bit of time for all of you to get involved. In a moment, we will be all sending you to breakout rooms, where it's over to you basically to have a quick chat. And in your breakout rooms, we would like you to do two things. First, we would like you to discuss whether any of you have, your personal life and your own activism. Have you ever worked with someone that you perceived as an opponent? And what have you learned from that experience? So that's the first question. I'll put that into the chat box in just a second, and we'll send it around as well. And then the second question is, how do you feel about what you've just heard? Do you have any questions? And just a reminder, we will have a Q&A session after you come back from the breakout rooms. There will not be a larger group sharing, unfortunately, because we don't have time, because we want to allow time for questions for Benson and Wilson. Great, welcome back, everyone. Really good that you stayed with us. We'll now come to the last part of today, which is the Q&A part. So it's now your time to ask any questions to Benson and Wilson. And to me, if you have any. And for that, there's two ways to ask questions. One, you can use the chat box if you'd like to type. However, if you find it easier, You can also speak to the camera using the microphone. But for that, I would just like you to raise your hand, and the raise hand button you should find in the bottom of your screen. And Phil and I will try to keep an eye out. Yes, Marlies, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Toby. What I was wondering, in the example of the land grab, where the land was dedicated to the dispensary, how was the come out? Did the buyer of the land, did they get another piece of land, and then the dispensary could be realized as well? Or was it just the land came back and yes, so that's my question.
Wilson, do you want to take that one?
Yes, I'll take, thank you.
Go ahead.
According to what it was, the land was particularly set aside for the dispensary, and our opponent used a corruptible way and forged some signatures in order to acquire that land. And when the information reached the community, they acted the way it went, and in a peaceful way. And according to the minister's research for the land, it is that the land belongs to the community, but they want to follow the legal way so that the land can go back to the community and purposed for dispensary so that they can come up with the dispensary. Otherwise, the issue is still ongoing.
So it's still not realized, not finished.
Yeah, not finished.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for your answer. I was thinking that when there could be, I understand that it was corruption that the people got the land, and that's of course a good thing to oppose against. And on the other hand, when there's more, when both the person or the, I don't know what, interested in the land and the dispensary could come to some kind of agreement or giving in, and so that the dispensary is being realized.
Yeah, but I get Mali's question and concern. That is there a possibility of the several parties kind of agreeing and negotiating and all that. It is possible, but for this case, again, it's not possible. With the simple reason is that we have laws in this country. They are written in the books of law. The government is the custodian of the laws and the constitution, and it is very clear that no government land can be turned into private use unless there's a due process of either a president's proclamation or a parliamentary debate that will transfer.
Sorry, I don't think it's just me. Benson, you're cutting out a little bit.
So in this case, it is very clear that that process was never followed, and therefore the rest of any other transfer is null and void. So there's no question for negotiation there.
Benson, if it's all right, I would like us to move on, and recognizing that that Jane shared a point about gender balance on the panel, and Benson, I was wondering if you're still with us, or Wilson, if you want to say a word or two on Jane's point that she made in the chat.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for her question. And with a great respect, that need to be done. But initially, the last session that we had two ladies who are leaders in Afrino, who are field officers, and they represented us well in that session. And maybe it was a pattern that this time there were to be two gentlemen, and then maybe the next one, with that respect, they will balance so that we have a man and a women on the same in the next one, if God willing.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. Anne Floyd, please go ahead, Anne.
Thank you. It was lovely. I hadn't heard the story about the quarry, and I was very impressed with that. But also the story about the land grab too. And what I'm wondering is, there must be many other communities across Kenya who have similar problems and could learn from the process that you went through with a particular example. And I wondered how you share amongst your different community groups, the ways in which you've done things, so they can get some ideas for their own work. How do you do that? Do you bring the groups together sometimes, or how do you share?
Thank you, Anne. You would notice and know that perhaps this is one section of a community in Western, and we have an entire region and even the country where we have this program in 4 regions in Kenya. Whereas we agree the same scenario, but for the communities where we have this program running, we have periodic networking meetings, sharing of these stories, seeing the common issues. There are common issues like from region A to B, and how do we merge such common campaigns to one. And we find some of them, yes, they kind of merge. Some that are unique, maybe they don't have such projects near them, but it becomes a learning point for next time should such a thing happen. So yes, we do networking meetings, gatherings from very local community exchange program across the communities and regions. That is the pillar number 4.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anne and Benson. I would now like to come to a question from Marianne, who's put it in the chat. She is wondering, are there times when it's difficult to establish facts that everyone can agree with?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At times it is. It is difficult to agree, but because like you may have different idea, and maybe the opponent might have different idea, but at the end, like for this case of land grabbing, this is where the law is to take its course. But we have talked to the government that if the opponent is ready to apologize and withdraw and give back the land to the community, at least negotiation, come together, they discuss, dialogue, and all that. But at times, it's not always easy. I agree. It's not always easy. Yeah.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wilson. Another question from the chat. Are there times when you cannot find local government officials who's an ally? And what do you do if that happens? So maybe Benson, this is a good question for you, because I know that you worked a lot with local government officials. So, what do you do in those instances when no one from the local government authority wants to support your campaign?
Thank you very much for this question. It's a tricky question because in some instances it's of course very difficult to find a government official, an ally. Sometimes it is also about knowing how government works in different departments and organs. So for a specific example is for the direct government officials that maybe benefit or key players to an injustice, such as this Chinese quarrying setup, they have direct benefits they get. So automatically it makes them a bit of an opponent and difficult to listen to your plea. But government works differently in other departments where we have other players like in environmental enforcement who are not directly involved in the benefits of such an example. So they will invoke their mandate as a government agency, say, look, this project has no approved environmental impact assessment report. Therefore, we agree with the community that it's causing harm. And therefore, you find one arm of the government that is now our ally, like the environment department, and whereas the local government department, who is the area DC, is perhaps does not want to hear. So in both ways, it could be easy and it could be hard, depending on what mandate and player the different government organizations or departments play. And what we do is, when we do the social speedo, that we know this government organ is very rigid or against us, we look for other players within the government. For example, if it's the legislative arm of the county assembly, and throw the ball in their court and say, look, can you bring this issue to the floor of the county and discuss and debate? And when the other arm hears that, they kind of soften and say, look, yeah, there are errors and we're able to talk and see how we can iron out that problem. So it is among the tactics and strategies we employ. One door is locked, we don't give up. You get maybe another door that is open to unlock the other door that is locked. And yeah, there we get everybody talking now.
Excellent. Benson, thank you so much. And Wilson, also thank you so much. Everyone, great to have you had us with us. Phil, can I just ask you to share the slide, please? We're at an end, friends, and I'm really happy that this somehow worked out. My very big apologies that there was so many technical issues with this one. We've taken good note of Jane's comment about the gender balance. We also welcome you to get in touch with any of us if you have any more questions. Here on the slide, which the content will share in a quick follow-up email with all of you after today's session. Please also in the follow-up email, there'll be an evaluation form. So if there's anything else you want to say and share with us about today, but also about any of the other sessions, you can do that in the evaluation form. Please make sure to follow my good Kenyan colleagues and Afrinov. If you're on Twitter, but also on Facebook, they're quite active there. There's loads of more success stories from the Kenyan team, but also from our colleagues in Rwanda and Burundi. I said, feel free to reach out, email us. For now, thank you all so much for coming today. Really appreciate that you've taken the time of your day. And yeah, we hope to see you next time. Take good care. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much from us, Kenya. We love you. We appreciate you. Let's continue interacting with the Twitter handles and other handles and email. Thank you so much for your time. We will continue with the TTT and nonviolence journey for the good of this country and for the world.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your support. It's working. It wasn't easy, but the content is helping us go through and we are getting it right. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Bless
Thank you.